banks don't trust artists. So they will never sit and think, let's give them some money, even at 0 rated or even at just 1%. It's an artist, it's a red flag. And that's when we found Hiva, and they gave us a grant and a facility. And for the first time, it looked possible. Let's start from the fact that we've staged Tomboya 22 times.
Okay. Wow.
And every staging has been sold out. I can say with my chest, we've changed at least over 100 people's lives.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Charged by Hiva, a series where we review some of the work that Hiva has done, particularly in the investments landscape. And today we are joined by Gathoni Kimuyu, creative producer at Too Early for Birds, as well as a director at Story Zetu. And we're going to talk about the good work that we did with them from 2019 up until very recently. So welcome, Gathoni.
Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm great.
I'm a very big fan.
Yeah.
I've met most of your team, but we've never interacted.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I actually directed Ngatia once
Wow.
for a film.
Yeah.
It was my directorial debut.
Okay.
I'm never doing any other thing like that ever again. But it was fun. That's the first time I interacted with Ngatia, at least at length.
Okay.
But yeah, this is the first time I guess you and I are talking.
Yes, it
So
is.
it's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you
And
too.
welcome to Charged.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Great. So we'll just start off with an introduction. So please just tell us, who is Gathoni Kimuyu and what do you do at Too Early for Birds? Also, what do you do on your free time, if you don't mind sharing?
Gathoni Kimuyu is a multifaceted, multi-hyphenated artist. I'm a creative producer. I am a script writer. I am a creative director. What else do I do? And I'm a mother to an amazing daughter. When I'm not doing production stuff, I'm a content creator, or what you like to call an influencer. And I'm obsessed with fitness, fashion, and food.
Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And storytelling.
Those are good obsessions to
Yes.
have. So let's talk a bit about Too Early for Birds and Story Zetu. I know a lot of people usually don't know what the very clear difference is between those.
Yeah.
So do you mind first just telling us what those two are, or if there is a difference indeed?
So it's pretty simple. Story Zetu is the production house that produces Too Early for Birds.
Okay.
Yes. And I sit as a director at Story Zetu, which is also the other directors are Ngatia, Abu, Tony, Njagi, and Masido. There's 6 of us.
Okay.
Yes.
And how did you get involved with Story Zetu?
So in 2017, Abu and Ngati at the time worked at an advertising agency, and I worked for a TV station. And they were looking to do a show for screen. And so they brought me in to produce the on-screen show. And we produced it, we wrote, we went on set, we shot. And it took me maybe 4 months of shopping around in different TV stations to get this show on the road, but no one seemed to like it, or not like it. No one seemed to want it. In fact, all the conversations from different media houses were, this show is not for the common mwananchi. People are not going to understand it. I don't think people are going to watch it. It was never, it's a bad show. They just kept saying they feel like it's too genius for the everyday audience, which broke my heart, because if we're going to decide what the audience watches and we only just want to give them the stuff that is dumbed down, then it made absolute no sense. So unfortunately, I had to go and give the bad news to Abu and Gatia. And that was it. And they said, okay, I think we're just going to put these stories on stage. And I told them, all the best. I know nothing about stage. I'll see you guys when I see you guys.
Yeah.
And they staged the first show at the Kenyan National Theatre. But they came back to me and said, Gathoni, you know a lot of people in the media. So do you mind coming to do media and PR for the show?
Mm.
And I said, okay, listen, I know nothing about media and PR. And they said, no, don't worry. We're going to teach you. We're going to teach you what to do, what to say, where to go. Like, okay. By the time they were done teaching me, I was a pro at it. And all I needed to do was call, a lot of my friends are in the media. So all I needed to do was call some of my friends who are in TV stations and radio stations and book interviews for the show.
Mm.
And I think that show was sold out in less than 2 weeks.
Mm.
And we only did 2 shows and that was it. Then the second show was Badasari, which I did media and PR as well. At this point now, I'm starting to understand theater more, and I'm starting to get more interested in the ins and outs of theater. And so I remember one time just going backstage, and I saw a difference of how things are done on TV compared to theater. And I remember talking to Ngati and Abu about it and how to elevate that very thing so that it can get to the level of TV and maybe even better. And I didn't know what I'd done. So when we finished Badasari and it was time to stage Brazen in 2018, they came back to me. So usually when Abu and Ngatia want to throw me under a bus, they take me on a date together.
Wow.
So anytime they've asked to see me together, I just know there's a bus and I'm going under it. So I've accepted it for what it is. And so they talked about Brazen and they said, this is a show about the women in history who've been forgotten. And I mean, even when we tell stories about Kenyans, even heroes, we never talk about the women. We always just talk about the men. So this story was a very, very special story to me. And the fact that the direction was that it was all women cast and crew, I had no option but to say yes. And so this was my debut theater producing gig. And I remember how scared I was, but also I was willing to apply my everything I'd learned from producing TV. And I knew that's what I was going to transfer into this place. So I started by calling people who would be able to support us or collaborate with us in different ways. I knew I needed water. So at the time, I'd just come from producing Coke Studio Africa behind the music. So I had a contact at Coke that I called and said, yo, listen, I have a show. Here's the budget. But the water budget is 150,000, which we do not have. And they said, don't worry about it. How many crates of water would you want? And they brought the water.
Wow.
Yeah. So when that happened, it made me realize, well, production is extremely expensive and it requires a lot of things. You can go line item by line item and realize, oh, wait, there's this person who has a restaurant who could feed us, maybe for less, not necessarily for free. And it was an amazing, amazing learning experience. And I remember one time we were coming from an interview at Capitol in the morning, Capitol FM. And we got to a restaurant, sat down to eat. But when we were checking tickets, all the tickets had been sold out.
Wow.
This was just 3 weeks into marketing the show. So humbled, scared, shocked. And now all we needed to do was to focus on getting our lines, getting the show straight and staging. So that's how I found myself. And that was my debut producing.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's a really cool story.
Yeah.
Actually, a personal question. What do you enjoy producing more? Producing for TV or producing for theater?
Producing for theater.
Why?
Producing for TV is so easy. Producing for TV is so easy because there isn't too many moving parts like there is for theater. Theater is a live show. It means when we go on stage, we don't have 2 takes. TV, we can have as many takes until we get the right take.
Yeah, I see that.
The journey to TV, and this is not to downplay TV. TV, it has its hard parts, but the journey to TV is very polished. We have time to do 2 takes, 3 takes, 4 takes. The journey to theater, we have to rehearse for months and weeks so that by the time we get on stage, the cast is well gelled. Everyone has their character, everyone has their lines, and we're ready to give a show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. You've spoken about like some of the networks that you are able to pull in or call in when you are starting out at Too Early for Birds. And it sort of underlines the importance of building community as an artist or building a community if you're working in the creative industries.
Yeah.
And I'd like us to segue now into how you feel that helped you learn about Hiva, if it did in any way. Or how did you guys learn about Hiva, and what kind of work or what kind of support has Hiva given you in the journey of Too Early for Birds and Story Zetu?
So after the 2018 show and how successful it was, one of the things Ngate, Abu, and I talked about was that we were ready for a bigger audience, maybe even a bigger auditorium. But then it meant if we were going to a bigger auditorium, the production process was going to be hectic. It meant that disclaimer actually, for Brazen, most of the parts, financial parts of Brazen, I'd go into my pocket and pay for things so that then when ticketing worked out, then I'd get my money back. And it worked for the most parts, but then it also meant that I'd have to sacrifice some of my things financially to be able to run the production. And so in 2019, when we were told about Hiva and the facility they were offering, it felt like a load off our shoulders because at this point we had decided we were going to stage Tomboya. And Tomboya had come through Rusinga Festival. So Rusinga Festival wanted to stage a show about Tomboya in Rusinga. And when they gave us the story they wanted, we gave them, usually at Story Zetu, when we want to do something, we don't know how to do small things. We only want to do big things. So by the time we were mapping out the story and the budget, and we said to the person who had reached out to us from the festival, we said, the budget is, I think at the time it was 4.8 million. And they said, truly, we only have 50,000, Bob. And here it is. We don't have to stage this show in Rusinga, but if you guys can stage it, even better. So then now we're racking our brains and wondering where we're getting all of this money to do pre-production. And that's when we found Hiva, and they gave us a grant and a facility. And for the first time, it looked possible, especially because we had gone to an auditorium that we had moved from an auditorium that sits 350 to an auditorium that sits 640. So it was more expensive, but it sat more people. But then we knew the only way for the math to make sense, besides the facility we had gotten from Hiva, was to sell out every ticket so that then the math can math. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So just maybe if we could talk about if you guys had tried, also just for the people who may not know, what when you say facility, what exactly are you referring to?
So first of all, it was okay. Finish your question.
No, actually, let's start with that. Yeah.
So it was a 0-rated loan, and usually, a lot of times for artists, two things happen to us. The people who give money, and at this point looking at, say, for example, banks, will never give you a 0-rated facility. And again, when it comes to banks don't trust artists. So they will never sit and think, let's give them some money, even at 0-rated or even at just 1%. It's an artist, it's a red flag. So I think for Hiva to trust and to give us the facility changed a lot of things for us.
You've also mentioned that in your view, banks don't trust artists. Why do you think that is?
I think it's, I'm going to go a bit political, but I think it's rooted in society, and for a very long time, that coming from colonization, one of the things was that careers that are, say, doctors, pilots, teachers, those are the careers that were treated as careers. For a very long time, being a scriptwriter, one of the things I'd get as a question was, Or you're a scriptwriter, what else do you do? Actresses and actors get the same question all the time because we've not believed as a society and for a long time that art is a worthy thing or career. But that has changed over the years. And I think for banks, it's two things. That thing about society thinking that art is not good enough as a job, but there's also art not working out and not giving you the profits you expect. So automatically, whether you like it or not, and your art didn't work out, then now you owe the bank, but you also have nothing for yourself and you have nothing to give the bank. Yeah.
And maybe the last question in this section, do you think it's shifting, like in as far as people being able to make art a sustainable career in your time, in the time that you've been in the field? Have you noticed any shifts, whether positive or negative?
Yes, actually, a very huge shift. And not just in theater, in music. I'm sure just this week, I know you've had at least 5 Kenyan songs willingly, and I think that's an amazing, amazing shift. And the fact that the online space has opened up the way that it has, we're only going to get better. Yeah,
I'd like us to talk about the opportunity. Well, you've briefly covered the opportunity that you got at HIVA, which was the Cultural Heritage for Inclusive Growth, hybrid facility that gave you like a part grant, and the rest of it was a zero-rated loan.
Yeah.
What were you applying to do? And do you feel that you were able to achieve the things that you wanted to do with the facility?
So we were applying for this facility for the growth of our work.
Yeah.
We'd already seen how fast we were growing. And the bigger you grow, the bigger money you need. So HIVA was God sent. It was like a blessing just placed on our table, and we're like, the journey is going to be easier and simpler now. But then we can be able to say with our chest, we can be able to hire a rehearsal space. We can be able to pay for the things that come during pre-production right before we stage without having to worry about where money is coming from. Because also, besides us being the core team and the artist, it meant we also did the paperwork. We did the looking for the money. So HIVA just gave us some peace of mind to be able to do this project and do it in a seamless way. Yeah.
Okay. So do you feel you guys were able to achieve the things you had in mind
overachieve?
Oh, really?
Overachieve because I remember initially Mboya was supposed to have 7 actors. And we ended up with 11 actors, and it didn't feel like, oh my God, the budget is gonna go over. It felt, okay, we can afford to actually have 11 actors. We can afford to take in the crew that we're taking in, and earlier, because with theater, we have so many moving parts, and every moving part requires a person, and that person requires pay. So for the small moving parts that required hiring, we were able to hire. That's also the first time we had an admin too, because
an office admin.
Yes, an office admin, and we were able to get the lawyer almost at full time, a person who was in charge of our contracts, the person who was in charge of our maths in it. So this money didn't just get us better as artists. It also created a space for us to be able to hire people who are going to support the process.
Build better structures.
Yes.
Okay. And then now let's talk about the influence or the impact that the facility had on the actual work, like your bread and butter, making stuff for Kenyan audiences. What were the shifts there?
So, like I said previously, we watched Kenya National Theatre.
Yeah.
And Kenya National Theatre felt, and to this day feels like, the smallest auditorium we can stage in. But after Brazen, we were not ever able to book the Kenya National Theatre. It was constantly booked for other shows. That's the first indication that we had changed the industry. Then when we moved to Oswald and we sold out, the facility we got from Hiva made us realize we're actually worth ourselves and we're about to get even bigger. And it made us move in confidence, knowing that besides anyone else who could give us money, we have Hiva that's looking at us directly, has given us this grant and a facility. But they haven't just done that. They've also helped us plan our future. They've helped us look at what the numbers could be in the next 5 years. And in that process of seeing what the numbers could be in 5 years, we started to dream even bigger. And that's how we ended up at Jane Bhavan, which seats 800.
Okay.
So yes, it's this facility didn't just grow the production. It even changed how we think as a people and as artists.
In my other role at Hiva, I'm usually like the numbers guy. So I it's always nice to tell people what you've achieved, but it gives them a different picture when like you attach some numbers to it. So I want us to try to attach some numbers to the things that you had achieved. So when we're talking about productions, first, my question would be, how many productions were you able to achieve as a result of the facility? And then how many jobs approximately per production do you guys think you are doing?
Let's start from the fact that we've staged Tomboya 22 times.
Okay. Wow.
And every staging has been sold out. It was 12 stagings at the Oswald and 11 at Jane Bhavan. With Tomboya has always hired at least 40 cast and crew altogether. We hire interns from different drama schools. So we'll hire from KU, we'll hire from KCA, KIMC as well. So besides just being able to create employment for so many cast and crew, we've also been able to educate the next generation on, you don't have to start small. You don't have to start in a 150 seat auditorium. You can start at the 640 and it's possible. You just have to know what the thing looks like. As long as you have a clear picture of where you're going, and we have people like Hiva whose door you can knock and they'll walk with you. I think it's absolutely possible. So it's been, I can say with my chest, we've changed at least over 100 people's lives, cast and crew.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a really cool achievement.
Thank you.
And well, we read, or rather, there's a report that you guys sort of did on how you're able to manage, or rather, what kind of impact the facility had on your business. And in that report, there was something that was particularly very interesting for me. And it was that you guys mentioned that as a result of the facility, you are able to shift the conversation around how theatre practitioners are compensated in this country. So I'd like us to talk about cast and crew for a bit. You've already talked about like some of the interns that you guys worked with and how you guys continue to offer your space as a space for learning for the next generation of theatre practitioners. Now let's talk about the livelihoods of the current generation of theatre practitioners. In a report that you guys did about the impact that this facility has had on your organization, one of the things you mentioned is that you feel this facility helped you shift the conversation around how theatre practitioners are paid and compensated in the country. I'd like us to talk about what that means for you guys. How do you guys feel like you've changed the landscape? And again, because I'd mentioned I'm a numbers guy, if we go back to exactly what average, what ballpark were you guys employing for the shows that this facility helped with? And what were the shifts as far as pay is concerned?
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I started producing, one of the things I did was research how much people are being paid, cast and crew, to see what we're working with. And the numbers were heartbreaking because, like I said, it's not everyone who can afford to pay big numbers. And it's simply because theater had not been given the respect it deserves for a very long time. But when we started, and especially with after we got the facility, we were able to pay triple what the industry was paying at the time for the beginning of the show. And cut to last year and this year, actually, we paid triple what we were paying in 2019. Yes. So the growth has just been all the way up.
It's been an upward trajectory since that shift started.
Yes.
And what about the number of people you guys are hiring per show? Do you have any estimates?
Yes. So for Brazen, for example, wasn't as high because we had just come from a time where we were just staging 2 shows. And then we started to stage 5 shows. And as the producer, one of the things I was learning very fast was that only 5 shows would make financial sense. Because 2 shows meant then we would also have to pay like the rest of the practitioners and the players. Boya being quite a heavy, very, very heavy show. I mean, 3.5 to 4 hours long means you need a team that's there, committed and working. So we had a crew of 40 people. That's inclusive of interns, caterers, first aid, a counselor, therapist. So it encompasses every department. And by the end of it all, especially 2019, we had, I think, 40 hires in the crew. If you add the actors who are 11, that gets the number to 51. And Tomboya, I don't think there's a way to do Tomboya without a big crew because there's just so much to do on the show. Yeah.
And you had also mentioned that you feel this facility helped you. You had also mentioned that you feel this facility helped you guys dream bigger.
Yes.
Now, other than that, do you think that it had any other impact on your staff at Too Early for Birds? Did you notice anything shift with your staff members?
So 2 things.
Yeah.
This facility really helped us with the marketing strategy. Out of the 6 of us, 4 of us are also were heavily involved in advertising at the time. So we knew the ins and outs of digital media, and maybe before other people in the industry knew about it or knew about how to go about it. I mean, when we were starting out, a lot of the theater shows were either taking their shows to be advertised on Kenya Bars, or they'd take physical tickets to the Kasanga store for people to go and buy from there. And then the posters would have the producer's personal number. And if you buy a ticket, then it goes to their number. So a lot of things that we were doing for Too Early for Birds, nobody else was doing in the industry.
Okay.
And we always, our rule is that we don't start to do any show without a marketing strategy. But then how do we fund the marketing strategy? Because marketing is also quite expensive. In fact, the rule always is if your marketing strategy or your marketing budget should always be 10% of the budget. So if we're saying the budget is 5 million already, we need 500,000 for the marketing. And to have Hiva's facility also helped us push the marketing strategy as we expected and as we wanted it to move. And everything made so much sense and it became so much smoother that we could say, okay, fine, we're going to media buy for that video. And we actually have the money to media buy for it. So it was life-changing. But also it was like with Brazen and Mboya, there were twice where to theater producers came to me to say, Gathoni, yes, I came to see the show, but I also came to see what you guys are doing different from us. And I can tell that the one thing we've never done is marketing, and you guys have hacked it. So that for me was enough to know that we were changing, and we had changed the whole infrastructure of the game. For personal growth, for the directors of the company, I know in the dreaming of knowing we can do things bigger, it also meant that we also can grow as a people. And I know one of the things that has been able to happen is that Ngatia has been able to produce his own shows away from Too Early for Birds. Abu runs a fully fledged podcast studio, which is extremely successful. And just recently, I also announced my own production that is staging in November. So growth is constant in our lives. And we've only been able to grow like this because there are people who believed in us and said, guys, here is the money, go. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You're a script writer.
Yes,
so you
I
know
am.
how like scripts usually go, like start high.
Yes.
Like, what's that?
No,
what's that meaning?
you start here, then you go up, then you go down.
Then you go down.
Yes.
So we've been here. Like
Yes.
in the story of Too Early for Birds and Story Zetu, we've been here.
Yes.
I'd like us to talk about like a period that I know was a shock for the entire creative industries, not just Story Zetu.
Yes.
But it is particularly important in this context because you got the facility in 2019 and you are planning
and we blew.
and you are planning to like, you know what, this is going to help us get bigger, more audiences, more shows, etc.
Yeah.
And then in 2020, something called COVID happens.
Yes.
And the government says, first of all, no public congregations, no crowds, etc. So I want us to talk about COVID and the impact that had on your organization, the impact that had on the facility, and did you receive any support from Hiva during that COVID period?
So let's go back to 2019. Everything has worked out in our favor successfully. I think I remember how good it was because people asked for a rerun. And we could only give them a rerun in November while we had staged in October. We had staged in September or October, end of September, going into October. We couldn't do a rerun in October because at the time our set designer was getting married and all of us had been invited to the wedding. So I remember
the Kenyan way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we remember how happy we were as the directors of the company, and we went to this wedding in Diani. But we were also making payments while we are at the wedding. We're like, okay, fine. People have worked. We're successful. Things are looking good. Let's pay people. So we're by the beach and we're paying people at this wedding. But we're also making plans for the future. We're like, okay, so what's the next show we're doing? Let's do a show about Kenyan music. And we call it Beats. We're like, okay, fine. Beats is a very big show. It also means that we have to get approvals for the music we want to use. So we knew there were so many things that we needed to do. And we also had this facility that we needed to pay Hiva. So we're like, we need to be working from an office, guys. We need an office where all of us can sit together, figure this out, and how we're getting to stage Beats. Okay. Writer's room starts. And the writers are writing. I think that was maybe January, February. And because it was a very big production, it was going to be a very big production. We had, I think, at least 6 writers who were helping develop the story, including Ngatia and Abu. So we finished writing, and now we're trying to figure out the segmentation of the show so that people are not in the auditorium for 6 hours, to know if we're just going to do a part 1 and a part 2, and if we're going to air it at different times. Like, we're still trying to figure that out. But the way we're set up at Story Zetu, as long as we have the idea, then we'd rather start selling tickets then, because if we're going to put out a big show, it means we'll need money to run the production. So we put out the poster. And after we put out the poster, we meet at this office that we had already found. And we had paid rent, I think, for 3 months. So we're meeting for a production meeting to now kick off the production.
Yeah.
And half of the team was sat at the office. Abu and I were at Village Market doing shopping to take back to the office.
Yeah.
So we're on the queue, but everyone who's on the queue has big trolleys that are full of Dettol, tissue paper, a lot of things, masks. And Abu and I are wondering, it's 8 a.m. Why are people in the queues like this with such big trolleys? And we're like, okay, we don't know what's going on. But we were buying soap, just the things you need in an office, some coffee, some sugar. And we get to the office and everyone is so depleted. Guys, are you okay? You guys haven't heard? The first case of COVID has been announced.
Wow.
We're like, okay, we need to figure out what we're doing. So we have to announce a postponement of the show. But also we owe Hiva money. And we have no money about to come in.
Yeah.
In fact, for the people who had already bought tickets. So our diehard fans usually don't even want to know what story we're staging.
Yeah.
You guys have a link up. We've bought the tickets.
Yeah.
And that's quite the blessing to have as Too Early for Birds. So we put out a form. If you'd like your refund, please fill up this form and you'll get your money back. If you would not want a refund, please fill in this form and we can keep your money until when we stage the show. I think only 20% of the people asked for their money.
Wow.
The rest of the people waited until we staged the next show. But then we still knew we owed Hiva money. And we say to them, listen, this was the plan and this is what is happening now. And Hiva said, guys, we understand. Don't worry about it. We respect your work. We know how good your work is. So when you guys are back on your feet, you can pay the money. And literally, we finished paying that facility this year since 2019. And that really was quite the lesson that there exist people that like Hiva to assure us that no matter how hard it gets, we don't have to worry about a facility we're not able to pay because they believe in our work and they know we'll be back. And we're back. And we've been staging and we've successfully been able to repay the facility. So I'm really grateful for Hiva and the work they do.
Great.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yes, again and again.
Yeah. Now that we've talked about the laws, again in script writing fashion, now we're trying to come back up here. And you've spoken about the reruns that you guys were able to do, and these reruns were driven by audience demand. What do you think about these particular shows that were so well demanded or so highly demanded? What about them do you feel was interesting, special, unique? Why do you think the audiences craved these stories so much?
Okay, let's go back to some little history.
Yeah.
So 2017, when Too Early for Birds is starting, Phoenix is also closing down. Phoenix had held legends, Lupita Nyong'o, the late Lona Irongo, Jimmy Gathu, John C.B. Okumu, the greats basically. And the only thing that happened a lot at in theaters as a whole, there were a lot of fusses, a lot of UK shows being adapted for the Kenyan stage. Even the vernacular ones were still from the UK. The structure was the same. The stories were almost the same. And the backbone of theater felt like it was very white. And it has always been very white. The history of Kenyan theater is white. So come Too Early for Birds that's telling Kenyan stories. They're not just telling Kenyan stories. They're telling Kenyan stories in such a fun way. You feel like you're talking to your friend about something that happened. You talk about Wangare Maathai, but there's also pop culture jokes in between the storytelling. So it feels like you're scrolling Twitter, but you're also learning something. It feels like you're scrolling TikTok, but you're also learning something. So what that did was that it got the online audience to actually look our way and say, yo, this is something really cool. And for years, and especially on Twitter, a lot of people would ask, naitwa for birds ni nini? And every reply would be, you just have to see it to understand. I wouldn't do it any justice if I describe it in a tweet, but you just have to see it to understand. And that became a wildfire of, okay, if I have to see it to understand, when's the next one? Or they have a rerun of this show. And the reruns then would grow into another fire of, oh, I've gotten my tickets, or tickets have run out. We need another rerun. So it just became that thing where that we had visibility online. And the thing about the online audience is that, say my daughter will be 16 in January, but she's online, right? I'm 40 and I'm online. So it means there's a generation between 20-year-olds to 45-year-olds who are using the internet actively. The 45-year-olds have spending power, 40 to 45, 35 actually to 45 have spending power and care about Kenya's history. So if I take my daughter to a theater show, by the time she's 20, for example, she won't stop telling, it's something that entertained her, she won't stop telling her age mates, which means then her age mates will want as well to come to the show. So it had been and has been in two ways, online, but also word of mouth. And the word of mouth is one of the best marketing tool you could ever get, because amongst your friends, if your friend tells you, yo, you have to go and watch this theater show, you never ask twice. You go and watch it and you like it. I had people online who would say, listen, go see this show. If you don't like it, I'll give you your money back. There were so many of those. And so that word of mouth, but also the work we put in the marketing strategy and having actually a good show, because it's one thing to have a bomb marketing strategy. It's another thing to not have a good show, you know? So to have an amazing marketing strategy and for people to walk into the auditorium, sit and actually enjoy the show, 100% then compensates for every, I like to call it mbwembwe, for all the mbwembwe we've done online. Then it counts and it just culminates. And then it gives birth to what we are now.
I mean, you've talked about like how, like this combination of a very strategic marketing approach, as well as like the stuff that happened organically, like through the audiences. And you've shared some nice stories about like how you feel the audience has shaped to Story Zetu's journey. But if I could ask you for, like, what's the one testimonial or the one thing that you've had like from audience or a member of audience that has really stayed with you up until this point and will stay with you for a long time?
Wow. So there's two.
Sure.
So there's a comic called Wangoi. Wangoi hadn't lived in this country for a long time, but the first ever theater show she came to see was Mboya. But she had also just come from watching Hamilton. And she said, Gathoni, this is the Kenyan Hamilton, and this deserves to be on Broadway. And that has stayed with me to this day. The second one was Mboya's children and grandchildren coming to the auditorium to see the show and meeting us backstage after the show, crying and saying thank you for honoring their dad the way that we did, and saying that they realized they learned so much about their dad that they didn't know.
Wow.
Yeah. So those two comments have stayed with me.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And I think also I've personally learned a lot about Story Zetu and the ways you work and the ways that your organization has grown over the years. And this conversation has sort of highlighted the importance of having like a financial partner who understands the creative industries in that sense.
Yeah.
So maybe in closing, I'd like to ask, do you think the creative industries in Kenya needs more investment or more investment partners like Hiva? And if so, why?
Yes, heavily actually, because the process of any creative thing being created, built, requires so much money. But not just money. One of the things that we struggle to get is rehearsal spaces. So if Hiva has an office that has a backyard, we're ready to come.
We can host.
Yes, you can host us to do our rehearsals, because usually if we get to do our rehearsals at an auditorium, then it means we have to pay for the space, which is not feasible. It would mean then we'd have to charge tickets in the 5,000, 6,000 shillings for people to come see the show. So, well, the money is amazing. If there are other ways to collaborate with financiers beyond financial, those are extremely welcome. But financially, the money is very, very important. And the artists really need the money. I'll tell you the truth. An artist creates better when they have money.
When they're comfortable.
When they're comfortable.
Sure.
Because to create as a scriptwriter, for example, I will never be able to come up with an idea if my stomach is hungry. I will never, ever be able to write. So it's really important that art is funded, because in the next 5 years, I won't say 10 because the internet is changing too fast, even for my understanding. But I know in the next 5 years, Kenyan art will have scaled in such big ways than we expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. I think that's it.